This program brought to you by Brewski's Bar and Grill, located in Utica, Minnesota. Your one-stop shop for delicious burgers, fries, pizzas, and more.
You ready there, young man?
Let's get it rolling.
Let's get it rolling. This must be show number, what, 9, I
think so.
Show number 9 for the wrap, and here it is. It's Wednesday night again. We changed our day of recording from Thursday to Wednesday to accommodate Tim's fatherly duties.
Duties.
Yes. That's a good way. The scary part is for the month of November, he probably is not going to have hockey practice on Thursday. He's going to have hockey practice on Friday. So I don't know. We'll just keep going with what we go with and take care of business. And well, let's start with the high schools like we always do. And we were just talking about Ryan Ford.
We were.
Who was down at the state cross country meet on Saturday, and she ended up taking 95th place. 25 spots better than she did last season, and I saw her this week. She seemed to be happy with her result, and why not?
She's a sophomore, and she's, sophomores, you give them a day or so and they get over it and start thinking about other things. And so she's very young, she's very talented. She's got a nice career ahead of her.
Got a nice future ahead of her, and we talked a lot about Ava Hill on this show over the fall, and she ended up taking fourth place, beating the girl who beat her for the section championship. I suspect maybe there was a little drive there to make sure.
I think Ava's a very competitive woman, and wherever she goes, she's going to do quite well.
And we also talked about Gino Urban from Greenway. He ended up repeating as state champion, and he did it in style, as he set a new state record for the state meet at 15 minutes and 27 seconds. So he's just a junior as well, junior. And he has one more year. And I talked to Sheldon Slabaugh, our good friend from way back when, and he was down at the meet, and he said Gino actually passed out momentarily as he came across the finish line.
That's what it said in the paper too.
And then after he got done doing that, he walked away, and then he went over and threw up whatever he had left in his body. So you can kind of understand what it might take to be a state champion.
Yeah, that's right. And you take a look at the big picture on the front page of the sports page of the Duluth Tribune, and there he is, and then you know how it ends. But that was part of the story. But he, young man like that's going to give you a fine effort, no two ways.
Well, it takes a little bit to be able to do that. So that puts the cross country season in the book. I see you have your prep playoff schedule out in front of you.
Oh, I do.
Which football game would you like to start talking about for this coming weekend as the state quarterfinals get started?
Well, I'll tell you, we don't ordinarily see the 5A schools, but I have a specific interest in Chaska. I have some friends that played down there and coached down there, and I've been to the school many times, and they're going to play Mahtomedi in Shakopee at noon on Saturday, and that's going to be a real good football game.
Well, all those big school games are going to be, I think, pretty good games overall. What else piqued your interest?
Well, one thing I did pique was on the single A, where Deer River is playing.
Deer River is playing Bulb, and boy, did they get a loaded hand.
Yeah, they did.
Bulb was the number 1 ranked team all of last year, lost in the state championship game.
I thought so, yeah.
And then they come back all the way through, and they're rated number 1 again. And guess who Deer River gets? They get Bold.
Bold is 11-0, and Deer River is 10-1. And I was just thinking, I know where that one came from.
You know where that one came from?
That one came from is the first home game up here, first game we broadcast
on KCC TV.
Yeah. And so that kind of. But I take a look. A lot of football games. There's a lot of things going on all over the state. This is a wonderful time for high school football.
Yeah, I'm going to go in and take, on Friday night, I'm going to get down to North Branch, and I am going to watch Moose Lake Willow River against Paynesville. I got to see what the Rebels have. And, of course, all these quarterfinal games are on artificial turf. So there will be no mud issues or whatever. It might be a little chilly. It could be a little bit breezy, but I have the option between going and watching Southridge and MIB, which of course I have an interest in, but I also have an interest in the Twin Cities on Saturday morning, and I'm trying to get myself a little bit closer to the Twin Cities. So I thought I'd go watch the Rebels again, take on Paynesville, and see how things go there. Also out of Section 7, Esco gets Annandale in Brainerd on Saturday afternoon. I believe they also have their hands full with that type of game. So, but Southbridge MIB, like I said, that 9-man game between two teams from northeastern Minnesota is going to be interesting. But MIB's got Zubich at the quarterback, and if he can throw the ball around, I think that probably will be the difference in that game.
Yeah, very well could be. I know they're a talented football team.
What else football-wise? Anything else you want to, high school football-wise?
High school football-wise. Well, I don't know, that kind of covers it up, but no, this is the quarterfinals. The semis, is that, do they play that?
They get played at US Bank Stadium on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
That's the semis, and then the finals.
And the Prep Bowl is Friday and Saturday after Thanksgiving, so they get 2 weeks off in between.
Okay. And
of course, I had the opportunity to, I should mention, to go out to the Fargo Dome last week and watch 3.5 games. we had to get home. It was 1:30. We got home the way it was, and it was kind of interesting. And this is kind of interesting. The last game of the night was Perham versus Dilworth Glendon Felton, a 3A game. Perham, 4 wide receivers, shotgun quarterback almost every down. They mixed up the run and the pass a little bit, but like to pass a little bit more. DGF comes out, double wing. Everybody shoe to shoe. It was a contrast in styles, and we left at halftime, and it was 14-14. And I'm like, they were kind of like, the guys I was with, they're kind of like, well, you really want to leave? And I'm like, no, but I got to go to school tomorrow, so I'd like to get home. 1:30 doesn't sound too bad because it was 20 after 9 when we left. So we listened to it. I found it on the radio. Actually, found it on my phone, and we listened to it. And the color guy was outstanding, and the play-by-play guy that we were listening to, he was more Homer than PA is. Let me just say that. It was almost kind of like, geez, you could give DGF a little bit of credit because he was the Perham guy, and I'm kind of like, you could give that other team a little bit of credit and whatever, but the color guy, he was fun to listen to, and so we drove all the way to Detroit Lakes listening to it. It was 4 series in the whole second half. Each team got the ball twice. That's it.
Ooh.
DGF scores with a minute and a half left in the game to go up 20-14. Perham, who hadn't scored in the entire second half, drove all the way down the field, scores with 11 seconds left, and they apparently didn't kick extra points all year, but they kicked an extra point here to win at 21-20. So we maybe missed the best game of the day, but we saw North Central, which was a pretty good game, losing 14-12 to Warren Alvarado Oslo, and I'll tell you, the Stars tried everything that they could. They were out maybe one of their better running backs in Matt Kennedy, and Pendergast wasn't at 100%, but he gutted it out and did the best he could. And the Stars had a chance. First and goal at the 7-yard line with 5 seconds left. Couldn't get it done. It was an exciting game. They gave themselves a great chance. It was a fun game to watch. Those 2-point conversions are killers when you lose 14-12, though.
I'll tell you what, and I haven't seen a whole bunch of kickers around to take care of that.
Well, an old football coach, head football coach that we know, he wanted them to run Charlie Brown on that last play, and I'm like, well, that'd be great to run Charlie Brown if you've had time to practice Charlie Brown.
Yeah.
That can be a difficult task. So
I know that old football coach. He'll try anything.
Yeah, he would try just about anything.
Going back to that Perham, they're picking up Pierce first round, 11-0. So they have their hands full coming in, but
both those teams, both those schools go to state like in everything. I mean, wrestling, basketball. It seems like their names are all over the place, but there ought to be a fun game. Although Pierce has been taking care of business most of the year. They got a little bit of a battle on their hands, but it was, like I said, I think Pierce is your state champion unless something, in 3A football, unless something happens.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a good prediction.
So the other game, or the other team that I have to talk about, this was in 4A. Benilde St. Margaret's, who came in as the #1 seed in Section 6, easier for me to say than I think it should. Anyway, and they took on SMB, which is Minnehaha Academy Blake and St. Paul Academy.
Very good.
If I've got did I get all those right?
I think you did, yeah.
So last week they played for the section championship, and a lot of teams are saying that this is the state championship game. That's what some people were saying. SMB's got 5 players that are going Division 1 out of a 4A school. They've got 5 kids that are going to go play Division 1 or could go play Division 1, and of course their quarterback's probably going to end up at Duke playing basketball or something crazy like that. But having said that, this team was down to Benilde St. Margaret's, I think if I remember right, like 30 to like 13 or 16. They were down by a bunch, and SMB came back and won it. They're the defending state champions in 4A, so I'm curious to see how SMB goes through this now, because if that was the supposed state championship game last Friday night, what are they going to do the rest of this field in
I'm
the
going to
state
tell you
tournament?
right now, they're going to play Chisago Lakes, who's 5-6 on the season, and so that's a Saturday pull. But you know, Benilde St. Margaret's, SMB, they've always had some really remarkable sports teams and some really remarkable characters.
Well, and the thing about that whole Chisago Lakes thing is, you said they're 5-6, which is a great point. They came through Section 7, beat Hermantown, and took care of business there. They just had a stretch where they played some pretty dang big schools. So they're a 4A school playing a bunch of 5A schools. So when people look at that and say, well, how's a 5-6 team make it to the state? Well, you make it because you're playing 5A schools on a regular basis, and you got your hands full. So
that's a very good point.
So it's going to be fun. Of course, the state volleyball tournament gets started on Thursday. I had the opportunity last Saturday afternoon to go down and call for J105, called the Greenway Championship.
Yes, you did. That was a good time.
Over Carleton, both #1 seeds on either half of the bracket, and the quality of the broadcast wasn't very good because I had to talk into my phone to get it on the air, but we got it on the air. Very exciting. Greenway goes back to the state tournament for the first time in 18 years, and they end up getting #1 and defending champions Minneota. So that kind of makes it for a tough thing, but hopefully they'll give them a run. I think they've got their hands full, but we'll see what happens.
Well, you know, it's really kind of remarkable, but I see an upsurge in the volleyball. I watch Minnesota, who's ranked nationally. They're 17-3 on the season, and their gym is full when they play, and it's just like the kids are going down there and watching these women play, and they're inspired. I can see that improving.
Well, they had the Minneapolis paper had their all-metro team in the other day. They had a picture of all 6 girls, and of course the #1 girl is a junior out of Egan, and I think she's 6'1" or 6'2", and she's their setter. Okay,
That's
but
the
they play in the front row. They let her hit a little bit, they said.
Well, that's
nice. But you know, the problem that I have with this young lady, as good as she is, as a matter of fact, she missed the start of the regular season because she was playing on the World 16 and under or 17 and under team. That's how good she is. My problem with her is she's going to Nebraska already. She's a junior. She's already declared to go to Nebraska to play. Come on, stay at home.
Like losing basketball players to Duke.
Top 6 players, the 6 teams that made the all-metro team, none of them staying in the state of Minnesota to play volleyball. Very disappointing.
Yeah, it is.
Very disappointing. But Minnesota has quality volleyball players, and so I understand there's a little bit of that to be concerned with. There's those things that you have to be working around. Did you watch any college basketball, as long as we brought up Duke and college basketball?
Until about 11 o'clock last night. My eyes were red and beat up.
I did not watch a second. I saw the games were very close. They must have been very good.
They were incredible. And Michigan State is they lost, but they're going to be tops in the Big Ten. They're just a very good basketball team, and you know, Duke is just an extremely well-coached team, and Coach
It makes you look like a better coach when you got 4 or 5 out of the top 15 or 20 guys in the nation.
They have a young kid, freshman. His name is Maxey. Maxey scored 26 points last night. Had about 13 assists, and he was drilling them. I mean, from on the other side of the street. This kid really had a range, and
the new 3-point line is in effect this year. They moved it back another foot, I believe, or 1.5 feet or whatever it is.
That wasn't a factor with this kid.
It was not a fact. Well, it was kind of scary because, you know, the whole idea of moving the three-point line out is to open up so you can drive to the lane a little bit more.
Yeah.
So instead of it being so packed in and everything else, and the Gophers got a win last night, the men.
Yeah,
they got a win, and they hit, what did I hear, 13 threes, I think, in the game, in their win over Cleveland State. Who? But anyway, it's a win.
It's the first time they've ever played these boys, and you know, I say here's Michigan State. You know, they play Kentucky, and we play Cleveland State. Well, this is the way it works.
This is the way it works. Yeah, you got to be the rich get richer, and the middle of the road stay in the middle of the road. That's how the NCAA likes it. So they got their battles. So they got their rivalries.
Well, and I had a couple of things written down about these guys.
The two new guys, the guy from what was it? Clemson and Oklahoma State. Where are these guys from again?
Well, they got Demir, Lehan Demir. He's from Drexel. He's a senior transfer.
Okay.
He is the only senior on the start. They have a redshirt junior, and they have all the rest are sophomores. They run a three-guard offense, as near as I can figure out. And so, you know, their consistency last year. I mean, they had Big Murphy. I call them Big Murphy.
Yeah.
He had in the center, and so you know, their three-pointer was effective, but he had 17, 18 rebounds a game. Now they have to have that, and I think that maybe they find a little shooting consistency from the outside with these guards. Maybe they can go and
fans are going to have to be understanding that the three-point shot doesn't go down every night.
No, it does
Just
not.
ask the Duke fans about how many times they get to win a national championship because all of a sudden their three-point shooting goes on hiatus.
You know, Marcus Carr had 18 points. Willis had 17 points, and Daniel Turu. I like Big Dan now. He's 6'10" and about 260. He's put on a lot of muscle. He had 6 turnovers, but you know, he is going to be our next big man.
He's going to drive us crazy with those 6 turnovers. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
It's early season thumbs, I call that.
Okay, fair enough.
But you know, it's hard to say about that. But you know, once basketball season starts and those boys start playing 2-3 games a week in the Big Ten season, that's where they separate the wheat from the chaff. Anyway, these preseason games are exactly that.
Yeah, we'll see what transpires. I have hope for the Gopher men's basketball team. The Gopher women's team fell a little flat last night. They've got some things to work through, but like I said, I do have hope for this men's basketball team that they will get back to the NCAA tournament. I think if they stay healthy, I think they do. They've got some athletes. It's just the way it is with the kid from Pittsburgh who transferred last year, who for some NCAA, can you tell me why this kid had to sit out a year and everybody else gets to transfer?
Was that Marcus Carr?
Yeah, and they're eligible immediately. If you can explain that without hemming and hawing too many times, I'm sure everybody would like to hear why. And we've got all these other superstars that are transferring. The NCAA is going to...
There's some inconsistencies there.
Wow.
But 18
Boy, I'll tell you.
rebounds, he did well.
Yeah, George Frank found a nice way to say that. I couldn't find a nice way to say it, so well done. Shall we move on to college football?
Let's do that. I've been waiting for you to come up.
I have to start this conversation out, but I told you earlier that I needed to be in the cities early on Saturday morning for something.
How come?
Well, I've got a good friend who gave me 2 tickets to maybe the biggest football game at the TCF Bank Stadium ever.
This is a Cinderella game right here. And in fact, what's really kind of amazing is this is kind of one that the Gophers somewhere along the line have to win. And there's no reason for them not to do that this weekend.
Okay.
Now, last week, amazingly enough, number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 5 teams in the nation had byes.
Yeah.
And Penn State had a bye. Even the Gophers had a bye. So all these undefeated teams all had byes. So there was going to be no sparkly from there. But that's not the case this week. LSU is playing Alabama, and so you know what that means? That college game day is done in Tuscaloosa, not in Minneapolis.
Well, now the theory is that they're waiting for this Wisconsin-Minnesota game that's the last Saturday in November.
Yeah.
And that's what... No, college game day is not coming to Minneapolis in November. Are you in 30th?
No.
Are you crazy? After Thanksgiving, no.
No, and I'll tell
But if
you-
they are, I could be there because that's Prep Bowl day. So I don't know. It's crazy.
But I'll tell you, if I'm thinking like the coaching staff at Penn State, I'm wondering what's going to happen. This team is 8-0. They think that they're as good as any team in the nation. They're going to come storming out of that tunnel with a bunch of paddles, and they're going to think that they can win this thing, and that's a very dangerous place for Penn State to be. Now, if they can handle that, that's great. But I'm just saying this team is at least going to be emotionally prepared to play this team.
I'll tell you, as crazy as this might sound, I think Penn State may have more pressure in this game.
I think they might.
And let me explain why I think that. What I still call them the BCS rankings came out. When the rankings came out the other day by all the people who make the decisions on the Final Four teams that are going to be playing for the national championship, somehow in their infinite wisdom, they've been watching this Ohio State team and deem them better than LSU or Alabama. Now, that leads me to think that there might be some drinking or some rose-colored glasses or just plain idiocy on this board, because if you honestly believe that Ohio State, right now is a better team than LSU, who's beat 3 top 10 teams in the nation at the time that they were ranked, and Alabama, who's, well, let's just say it, they're Alabama. If you're telling me that Ohio State's number 1, and then you got the gall to tell me that Penn State gets ranked over what Clemson has done this year? I mean, I understand Clemson hasn't maybe looked glorious, but they're also 9-0. They're the defending national champions. And to kick them in the wherever you want to say they just got kicked, you just upset Clemson enough. And now Penn State's sitting there going, we're number 4? We could be playing for a national championship?
That's right.
We can't screw this up.
Yeah.
We can't screw this up. So now all of a sudden they've got the pressure on them. And the Gophers got ranked 17th and they were 13th in the AP or whatever. Right now, frankly for me, the Gophers have this might be wrong, folks. They have no illusions that they're going to be playing for a national championship. I don't think they get to the end of the season unless they're 12-0, 13-0. They got to win the Big Ten championship game. I don't see this team sitting at 13-0 at the end. I'm sorry. Lose to Penn State, lose to Iowa, lose to Wisconsin, losing the Big Ten championship.
I got to say this. My favorite flower are roses. And
we talked about this last year.
And I just would love to see them work. See, that got to even flash from the audience.
Yeah.
This is where I'd like to see them play. If that was their limit, that'd be great.
So to me, the Gophers are playing with like borrowed money right now. They're just out there. They aren't supposed to win this game, folks. They're at home. They're playing the number 4 team in the nation, and they're not supposed to win this game. So, boys, let her rip. Don't go and have some fun.
Go have some
and if
fun.
you lose, hey, no big deal. But I'll tell you what, as they said in the Star Tribune after Fleck got his new contract yesterday, and probably rightfully so, I'd hate to see him leave. And the only reason why I say that, because there's lots of good coaches out there. I don't want to leave because I don't want to have to see this program start over again. Ever since they
we've been
booted,
doing that forever.
ever since they booted out Glenn Mason in 2007, 8, whatever year it was, and they said, "Geez, 9-3 is not good enough, Glenn. We got to be better than that." Well, whoever made the final decision on that. And I think I know what it was, Mr. Mature, but you made a mistake. You want to have consistency, and so right now we can't lose PJ Fleck. We can't go through and start over again. We need to keep him there, and so the extra $1 million a year that we're paying him now, I know this might sound crazy, only $1 million more a year. Well, the football team, if they can stay successful, will make up that $1 million
many times over.
Easy.
And
so we had to keep them. So congratulations, PJ. You did a great job. You got things going. You got tongues wagging about Gopher football, which there was only wagging in a bad way before.
And besides, there was no way he wasn't going to be recruited.
Oh,
And Florida State, I knew already had their finger in the wind and all the rest.
oh yeah.
But I'll tell you what, nothing pays like success there, my friend.
Absolutely.
And he's been successful.
He has been. Okay, are you going to make a prediction on this game? Go ahead. You can be honest. That's all our audience ever wants.
If I had point spread, they're picking them right now at 6 or 6.5 points. I cut that in half. And if they can cut it down to 3, then they may have an opportunity to win this game.
I'll take the 6.5 and take the Gophers. I think it's going to be that close. I don't know if they win it outright. Matter of fact, I guess maybe my Minnesota insides tell me they can't win this game. I hope I'm wrong. They lose this game, but I think they're within a touchdown. I think it's close. I don't think Penn State is this powerhouse. I think they're good. Don't get me wrong. But I don't think that they're the number 4 team in the nation. So I say keep close. Give me the 6.5 points. I'll lay my $20 bill down on the proverbial table, and I'll take the Gophers with 6.5
I would love to see those boys on College game day with that long face saying, and that's, because nobody in the football arena is giving the Gophers the proper amount of respect that they deserve. They wound up being better than we even thought. And so, this is what we have. This is what we go in with. See what happens.
We already talked about number 2 LSU, number 3 Alabama. You want to take a pick there?
I tell you what, I got a friend of mine. He just moved out of town there, but they're from Baton Rouge. And if I said anything other than LSU, he'd hit me. So no, I'll go with LSU on this one.
I have not done my homework enough to know if Tua is going to be back in the lineup, but I would guess
I understand he is.
I would say Tua is going to give it a go anyway.
Yeah.
If he's close to 100%, Alabama's tough to beat in Tuscaloosa. I'm going to pick Alabama only because they're at home. LSU has beat, as we mentioned earlier, beat 3 top 10 teams already. If they make it number 4 and they're not the number 1 team in the nation next week, I may have to make a drive to wherever these presidents and ADs and whoever they are meeting and have a talk with them, because I wonder if you're really watching what's going on. Okay, so
yes.
Number 18 Iowa is at number 13 Wisconsin. Also
3 o'clock in the afternoon, and that is going to be a dandy.
Which one are you going to watch, George?
My thumbs are going to be sore. And I wanted to see the Gophers play a night game because it's been a long time. But when it came out at 11, the first thing I thought was, well, I've got all afternoon to watch other football games, and Ringer can make it to the hockey game that night.
And I can still make it to the UNB hockey game. It's going to be a great double whammy. My wife thinks I'm nuts, and of course she thinks that all the time anyway.
Don't let that bother you.
UND is at 1-8 Mary. Boy, they're going to get another win, folks. That's probably all we need to say.
They have some really good position football players that carry the load. If Larson could get back, that would help a ton.
Yeah, they wouldn't need Larson this week, so I would guess that they're not going to play.
And they didn't need him against Crookston last week either.
They did not need him against Crookston last week. Okay, folks, if you see me running out of the screen this way, I'm going to bring up the A word now. And I don't know where he's going to go when I bring this up, but did Army lose for the 3rd straight time last week, or is it 4?
That's 4 straight
That's
times.
4 straight.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
I wasn't 100% sure.
No, that's 4 straight. They play UMass, and they lost to Air Force 17-13. All the games that they've lost have been real close. They haven't been stomped out of anything. But last Friday, I went home and watched Navy play Connecticut. And boy, is Navy a good football team. Yeah, you got this guy named Malcolm Perry, a quarterback. He's fast. He doesn't throw the ball very much. He doesn't have to.
Need to.
But they run that triple option. This is going to be a battle of the triple options. I can't wait for the Army-Navy game. Right now, Air Force has a win. Navy has a win. Army needs a win, and it's been very seldom where they've all gone with
one and one
a win. But that was a tough one for Army to lose, and Air Force, they really did a great job on that one. Just a couple of other
college
scores.
Football notes. I see you have one down there that I had forgotten about.
Well, Concordia beat St. John's.
What the?
No, you can't say that.
I can't say that.
The Cobbers beat them 19-18 in overtime, and this in Collegeville.
And a guy who kicks on his own field every day in practice probably misses all 3 extra points.
He did.
Should I even bring this up? You know what that score made me think of? 19-18. You know what it made me think of? In overtime, it's 1994, 25 years ago, the Broncos lose on their home field, 19-18, in overtime to Northfield, and guess what the Broncos did? They missed all 3 extra points. I'm just like,
good kicker.
And I'm just like, oh my gosh, can that score? Could it be mirrored? And I'm not so sure. 25 years, like to the day, almost really close to the day. I didn't go look up the date on it, but I'm just like, that is weird stuff right there.
I called that game in the press box, and I was told at the end of the game I was observed banging my head against the wall, and but that was a horrible one to lose. I really wanted Northfield.
Yeah, my sister-in-law, who is from Northfield, was at that game, and she usually reminds me of that game.
One of
bad. Yeah.
On my teams here, Navy gets a bye this week, and then next Saturday they're going to South Bend, Indiana, to play Notre Dame.
That would be fun to be there.
It's going to be all those gold helmets. You have to pay attention to who's running around.
And which blue you're looking at?
But I'm going to tell you right now, this Navy team is nothing to fudge at. They are a very good football team. They got a solid defense. The thing that I have is when Army went to Michigan and played them and lost to them in overtime, they were never the same team at the end of that. They started losing games. They had a lot of injuries. So that kind of ripped them up. I don't want that to happen to Navy, but I will be looking close to that game.
What else? South Dakota State, Mankato, NDSU, all those were pretty one-sided games last week.
They were, except South Dakota lost to Western Illinois 35-34, and I kind of like South Dakota. I've got a niece that goes to school there. Hey guys.
If I say anything good about South Dakota, my son-in-law or my nephew will rip me in half. So I won't go there.
And I will say, Bemidji State slapped St. Cloud State up the head really good.
Okay.
So it was at 38-14. But anyway, those are the games to watch: Minnesota, Penn State, Wisconsin, Iowa.
After last week,
LSU and Alabama.
Really, after last week's games where you really didn't need to watch any college football. I mean, I was doing the volleyball thing and kind of out of the loop, but there were really no
big games.
There were no headliner games last week, and
all the top ones took the day off.
George mentioned UMD hockey for me on Saturday night. They take on number 1 Denver. The Bulldogs only ranked number 7 in the nation right now, but that's okay. They'll find their way. They're getting over the national championship hangover, and they didn't look great 2 weeks ago against the Gophers, but they beat them both times. So yeah, okay. I had to get that in there.
If you can beat the Gophers 1-0, that's beating the Gophers.
That's beating the Gophers. Yeah. We'll take them anyway. The Wild are out on the West Coast. Nice win, comeback win last night. I was curling last night, and then I went to the school and worked for about 2 hours. And I walked in the house, and I ate supper finally at about 10:30 because I hadn't had supper yet. And then I said, I think I'm going to go turn on the hockey game just to see what's going on. And the Wild were down 2-1 at the end of 2 periods, and I'm kind of like, oh, here we go again, blah, blah, blah. Well, by the time I did whatever I was doing, I came up back, and they were tied 2-2. And then I'm like, okay. And then pretty soon they were up 3-2. And I'm like, oh, it's time to go to bed because they're going to win. And they ended up pulling it off. So they got this West Coast win. They got a win in Anaheim anytime. I don't care what. That's a good win, 4-2 last night. And
a win for the Wild right now is because they're at the bottom of the heap and they have to start picking some of these up.
No, you need to stay right there at the bottom of the heap, guys. We want that number 1 overall pick. Just let her go. Don't fret. We can sit here and we'll complain about you and we'll yell about you, but we need the number 1.
Isn't that called tanking?
No tanking. Play hard, but lose. That's all I'm asking. And you'll hear me refrain this if you're going to watch this show for the next. Well, till April, you're going to hear me probably say this every week that we do the show, that the Wild, you can lose. That's okay. Just make it competitive. Make it look fun. Make it look like you're trying. And then move on. Can I talk about the Timberwolves?
You love to talk about Timberwolves.
Timberwolves 4-2 after they lost at Milwaukee. That was Monday night. They get Memphis. This is the first time they're going to play a team in the Western Conference. What is the NBA and the NHL doing? I complained about the NHL with the Wild 13 of their first 17 games or something like that on the road. Who puts the Timberwolves on the road for basically the first 2 weeks of the season, playing all Eastern Conference
home
teams?
games.
What's going on? And then the first Western Conference game they play is against Memphis, who's 400 miles further east than anyway. It's just I wonder what goes on. But
I have a hard time understanding professional basketball. I do know when I watch them, they're awfully good.
Oh, yeah. And of course the Timberwolves trying to shoot more threes, spread things out. Without Cat the last 2 games, Cat will come back after some rest and playing Call of Duty or whatever I think I read in the paper today. He'll be rested. He's going to go for like 40 and 18 tonight against Memphis, and the Wolves will win huge. That's my prediction. What else you got? What?
This is some of the
Yeah, some of those things when you're retired and you have snippets that you have to report on when you're retired.
And a lot of these snippets, they come from. I was telling them, where do you get your snippets? I says, I subscribe to New York Times. It's right there in sports. Nobody reads the sports in New York Times. This was a crazy weekend for pro football. This was all of the Central Division lost. New England got their heads hammered to them by Baltimore.
And did you see how they did it? Stuffing it right in their face.
They did. Yeah.
That's what I liked about
it. That was very nice. Now, the one play, I mean, the Vikings, if you weren't a Vikings fan, the Kansas City game would have been enjoyable as can be. But when you take a look at it as a Vikings fan and analyze it, you had Damian Williams that ran for 126 yards, 91 yards of which. So after that, he had
35 yards.
35 yards for the rest of the game, and on the 91 yarder, he's scooting down the field, walking away from everybody, and then this Tyreek Hill flew by everybody, caught Williams and patted him on the back.
Well, here's the thing about Tyreek Hill that people seem to whatever. They were busting the Vikings for giving up too many big plays to him. He puts big plays on everybody.
Yeah.
Don't start saying, well, the Vikings blah blah blah. He does this to everybody. He
had 6 receptions for 140 yards and a touchdown.
What?
But I mean, how would you even cover him is way beyond me.
Well, you'd have to double cover him, and that's something you can't do in the NFL.
Yeah.
That's not a good idea.
There was something some guy left a note on the email, and he says, "Get this guy off the football field. We need him for the Olympics." But he is a genuine flyer.
Yeah.
And then just a couple of things they were talking about. This was the 8th week. Where do the top runners in NFL history compare? And Christian McCaffrey is leading the league after 8 games with 1,244 total yards. That's passing and rushing. But you know who the all-time leader was?
For you mean for a career?
No, the first 8 games.
Oh, for the first 8 games.
It was done in 1963.
Jim Brown, no.
1,194 yards rushing, 222 yards receiving, 1,416 total yards in 8 games. That was 1963, and it was Jim Brown.
It was Jim Brown.
And I remember as a kid watching him, and even, I was in junior high or something, you could see that he could do some stuff that nobody else could do.
Yeah.
And it's just, but I saw that and I thought, after all these years, Big Jim still holds the record.
Vikings have the Cowboys on Sunday night.
They do.
You wanna mention anything about that at all?
I watched the Cowboys play this week, and are they playing that in Texas?
That is in Texas.
Oh yeah, well that's a different place to play the Cowboys.
Huh?
But the Giants give them a push, and I thought maybe anytime you can beat the Cowboys in Dallas, that's fine with me. But
that's really good. I like it a lot. I was reading because I got to watch 0 plays of the Vikings game on Sunday. I did not watch a play. Don't feel bad for me. I felt bad enough for myself. But having said that, they were talking about Delvin Cook. He carried the ball 21 times.
21 times.
I believe they said 15 of the 21 carries, he was contacted at the line of scrimmage or behind. And I'm like, well, that must mean he had a horrible day. He had 21 carries for 71 yards. He still averaged almost 3.5 yards per carry, and I'm kind of like...
That's right. And Cousins, he had 220 yards and 3 touchdowns. It wasn't that he had a particularly bad day either. What did happen, though, is I'll give all the credit in the world to the offensive line of the Chiefs. They kept our boys, they kept that pocket wide open, and they give Moore a lot of time. And and Moore, I mean, what do you got? You got a high school coach that comes back and plays a quarterback in the NFL. Who makes up these stories?
Yeah.
And yet that's exactly what happened. No, I sat there mostly with my mouth open, wondering how come Big Joseph wasn't getting.
It's amazing to me the way that people went right back after Cousins, and it started with my Uncle Paul, and he's like, "We got to get rid of him," and I'm like,
"Oh no,
gee, what?" So nobody's entitled to a bad game, some bad throws. I realize he was only like 9 for 21 at halftime. I get that. Where the throw's his fault. Here we go back to the Green Bay game or the Chicago game again. When whatever, it just. There's games when the scheme that you've practiced for all week isn't the scheme that you see. What you think the Kansas City Chiefs were going to do, that's not what they're doing. And so you've got to make some throws that, okay, they're not the best throws, and you've got to get rid of it and do some things. So I just don't think people look at it and go, well, this is a chess match, and sometimes the strategy of the other team changes.
Well, that's right, and and you take a look at like Treadwell was the receiver, the top leading receiver, three catches for 58 yards. Well, they're going to have to do better than that, and they have better receivers.
Well, and Thielen getting hurt early in the game or re-aggravating the injury did not help things any, and injuries are part of the game. Yeah, blah blah blah. But I see that as a big issue because Thielen is one of those targets that Cousins likes to look at. And when he's in trouble, he's looking for number 19. And when number 19 is not on the field, things change.
He can really catch the ball.
He can. He gets open.
Yes.
What else you got written down there? Miami Dolphins?
Miami Dolphins, they're losing the battle of the tankers because they beat the New York Jets on Sunday. And so this is letting the door for the Cincinnati Bengals to get the number 1 draft pick because the Bengals and Miami play on week 14. So the question is, I will watch the game. Who's going to give it up? And I see a high-scoring match in there, and just
all I say is whether you get the number 1 pick in the draft or you get the number 2 pick in the draft.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes there's a no-brainer. There. I don't think there's that coming in this NFL draft. Some people a couple years ago, Jared Goff. What's that guy from North Dakota State? Carson Wentz. Everybody's like, oh, geez, Jared Goff. You should have taken Carson Wentz and blah blah. Back to. They're both great quarterbacks. Just you get one. There's no one neither one of them that's better. They're great.
Somebody asked Adam Thielen what kind of scouting report was done on him, and he says there was no scouting report done on me. And here he is, one of the best receivers in the NFL, and nobody even knew he was coming into camp with the Vikings.
Top runners, Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah.
Okay, what else you got on that sheet of paper?
Well, I can talk about Baltimore Ravens, Lamar Jackson. What a quarterback! Is he
a good running quarterback or is he a good quarterback? Because now I throw that out there only to mix the pot.
Well, go ahead, mix the pot because he can do either.
Okay.
And of course he has Mark Ingram in the backfield. That helps.
Sure.
Just a ton. But no, I was really impressed with Lamar Jackson. I thought this is his second year, and I just it's like he's moving and everybody else is standing still. And he has that certain smoothness. I look for good things from this kid. And like I said, the only other one down here was talking about Pat Mahomes. He comes back. That Kansas City Chiefs team is going to be a very good team. They're a good team right now. They have a lot of skilled people, and they have a great line. It's
makes for a lethal combination when you have a good offensive line.
We know that.
We know that. That's for sure. Yeah. All right. So So here it is. It's a Friday evening. I'm looking for something to do. I head to 905 Riverside. I head up to the Solarium. What am I listening to? What's coming? What vinyl is coming out?
I almost put my my Woodstock '69 T-shirt on today because
Well, I see you have your House of Blues on.
House of Blues, but the other one, and I will be playing some old time rock and roll in the Solarium. We will. I said the biggest question that we have Friday is what we're going to have for brunch on Saturday. Saturday is going to be a big day, and the first song that goes on the turntable on Saturday will be the Rouser.
I was going to say the Minnesota Rouser.
The
Absolutely.
Minnesota Rouser. Yeah, it's. I have a very good copy of it.
Did you get Eagles tickets? I looked. $200, top row of the XL Energy Center, $200. I was like, woo. I also got pre-sale for Journey. Journey without Steve Perry, I know is whatever. But is Journey at the XL Energy Center worth going to watch?
Oh, it might be. It might be. Hey, you know, I'll tell you what. Anytime that you have live music,
It's good.
it is. You know, I walked away from a concert one time, almost went home and threw my stereo out the window. It's, you know, but now I have very good speakers and I crank it up loud. It's with my ears. It doesn't matter anymore. It sounds like I'm at a.
George, how did this show get to like 48 minutes? What did we do? I'm looking at the clock on the far wall and I'm going.
It goes by fast, doesn't it?
It goes by fast. We have fun. Anything else you got to add?
No. That was anything else that? No, I don't think so. I
That's
got
good
them all
stuff.
there was
One more. Don't go.
One more thing.
Hang on, folks.
Okay. The wrestling team.
Oh yes.
Cal State Bakersfield. They traveled to the Bison Open this week. They beat them 28-9. I haven't got any of the statistics yet. They haven't been on the chart, but I can pretty much.
No Gable.
I don't know.
No, he did not wrestle.
He did not.
He is not eligible to wrestle right now. He is still sitting on the sidelines with this investigation pending, which just absolutely. This happened in June.
In June.
So here we are in November. If I do my math now, that's 5 months.
Yeah.
Let's either let this man do what he's supposed to do, or let's tell him that he did really bad, and let's tell him what his penalty is, and let's move on.
Yeah.
Because this whole thing of holding it over his head and we got to do this and this, hey, get it done, figure out the investigation, and let's move on. Let's let everybody's lives get done, and let's do it right. Don't get me wrong. I'm not making light of what he did. But I think in 5 months you should be able to make a determination on whether what he did or didn't do is a chargeable offense or not chargeable. Let's move on. Let's get this thing decided so that if he's going to wrestle, great. And if he's not going to wrestle because he did something bad and he needs to be disciplined for that, then let's do that so that whoever is the heavyweight can be told that's what's going to happen, and let's move on.
And he's going to wrestle somewhere, whether it's for the University of Minnesota or somewhere. This kid has world caliber wrestler, and so
he does.
I'm sure that he'll come back. That's disappointing. Like I said, I hadn't seen the stats yet.
Good.
Do it again next week.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
This program brought to you by Brewski's Bar and Grill, located in Utica, Minnesota. Your one-stop shop for delicious burgers, fries, pizzas, and more.